You thought the clowns weren't coming for you. Make sure you guys smash some crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. We get to dive into Refine Gaming's second case tournament to actually paint the picture as to what is going on with the developments within this meta. And honestly, I'm not surprised to see, we're now turning up for the cool tune now. Now, I know these cool tune lists are going to look a little bit odd due to the ban list, but cool tune is still going to be projected to be the best deck in the room. Honestly, the reason why we're still covering this case tournament is because there's a lot of decks that are still going to be available within this sphere that are going to go unchanged, and it's going to still bring a lot of creative ideas to painting the futurized meta here, which 2 cool tune decks, check. We also had an Art Mage challenger. Now, Art Mage, still with the board breaking power that this build feels like it has, is quite an interesting challenger within the meta. I hadn't really given this deck a lot of thought, but honestly, I like what it's doing here. We also had an Elf Note challenger. Now, honestly, Elf Note still kind of remains one of the better decks that you can have access to in the format, and I greatly appreciate that. Honestly, just seeing Elf Note, coming into the spotlight now is pretty good. Then we have this Clown deck. Now, this Clown deck managed to get second place. It's going to be using some very, very, very interesting ideas, including, but not limited to, Mitsurugi cards. So maybe this is an idea that you might want to consider. We also had Draco Tail, which, Zia. We also had Malice. And of course, winning this event was actually Sky Striker, which is not all that surprising to kind of think about here, but the ideas that you actually have working for you for this tournament seems pretty nice. Let's pass on over to deck list. Winning our event here was none other than Sky Striker, and honestly, there's not a lot of craziness that this list is doing. One thing that feels a little bit weird to me is seeing Desires with only 1 rose. I feel like if you're choosing to make this leap of fate, that you kind of want the additional rose so you don't actually get destroyed by that, because that's always going to be one of those weird things. You also are going to notice we're going with all of the Super Poly gas in the world here. Super Poly is just such an extremely powerful card for this deck, and it actually helps you out so much. Also, we have 4 very incredible Super Poly targets, actually seeing the Triff Overtum being the 4th extra target here, I think is actually kind of nice. We also do get to see ye old DD Grounds, we get to see Draco Tail Flame. You've got a lot of good power wrapped up in a build here, actually kind of showcasing all of the worthwhile advantage that a deck like this feels like it can kind of unlock. So I like this. This is actually kind of nice to see. Next up here, we have Clowns with our Mitsurugi deck. Now, this was just a list that I hadn't really expected to see. Who's thinking going into the current tournament setting that, we're going to be combining the power of the Mitsurugi cards in combination with Clowns. I hadn't thought of this. But honestly, I think this just makes the deck a lot more consistent the way it wants to go. Also, Mr. Clown Man here being able to tribute over these will, allow you to get their effects, possibly forcing them to come back, which is kind of nice. I do also see we're playing 2 of the VIP. Well, you're kidding me. This card actually seeing actual play. That's hilarious. We've also got the triple copies of the King Tiger Wang, who rolling on out as that control option. And of course, all 3 gravity collapse. I mean, hey, right? You get Meteor. You've got access to probably one of the more broken cards within the format. You may as well slap it on the table and use it to your advantage. It just makes the most amount of sense at this stage. Next up here, we have Cool Tunes. RIP to Synchro Overtake going to 1, which I think will detour this a little bit. Because, okay, so realistically, you lose a Rose Whip, which, sure, that doesn't really matter. You now take away the potential for, board breakers a little bit. Okay, so we slot this down. Maybe we see more Duelist Genesis take off, or maybe, it really just kind of depends, but you will still see this. Also, Harmonia is still seeing a great amount of play within this deck. Now that the meta has slowed down a bit, I do think Harmonia probably will kind of slot itself back into the meta here. It just kind of makes sense, right? Like, Harmonia is one of those cards now that we've changed the tide of the game, that we can feel that extra little consistency actually come back in and do its job. So I think that this is actually kind of a little bit of a worthwhile thing to kind of see. So not too bad. Next up, we have Archmage, and honestly, this is the board breaker build. This is what we previously saw during the last term, where you're using these Book of Eclipses and these Dark Rule and No Mores to be able to push through things that the opponent is trying to do. And honestly, it's not too bad of a thing. I also like the triple super poly here, being able to, you know, push you through those board breakers. Obviously, Ilia Sylvia, Garua, Mud Dragon, you know, Draco Stapeli, and Theseus. You have all of these incredibly powerful tools at your disposal here to actually help you out. And honestly, that's kind of nice. We actually like those. Also, we are playing the Contact Seas down here. Kind of nice to still see this card getting some love, but Archmage is still one of those decks that I think this deck going into the next format is probably going to be just fine. Especially when you have all of the massive power patron push that you can have for this. So good. Next up, we get more cool tunes. Now, keep in mind here, this list wasn't even playing Harmonia. That was kind of one of the big things that we were talking about within the format here, was just like, you know, now that Synchro Overtake's gone, you know, do we slot back in Harmonia or what? Because now you're down 2 starters from your, you know, chunk of things, which, I mean, is okay. You also got 2 Gravity Collapse down here, but this is also another key example of, you know, people were already stepping away from the Rose Whip. So, you know, this build doesn't even really care about that. It's just going to come down to, you know, how are we going to slot in those additional losses of hand traps to be able to make this deck feel a little bit more consistent and so forth. Also, you have the entire Cyframe package down here, which is just fine. I also do see Hello Crossout Designator. The fact that this card might actually kind of slot itself back into the main deck just to kind of re-help you out with some of those options. So, okay. I mean, more options is not a bad thing, I suppose. Next up here, we have Elf Note. Now, this is kind of a cool development. I've been wanting to see, you know, like, how Elf Note would try to handle the format. Now, this build actually is really cool. This is where we're seeing, like, the Fallen of the White Dragon here actually trying to do its job. And honestly, this little guy does some wonders for this, because now we get access into the Incredible Ecclesia, which actually just kind of helps the deck out a lot more with the combo lines, which is kind of nice. I do see you are doing the, of course, Triple Terminus. Terminus is probably one of the best cards you have access to, because also being able to go through Vidodium is pretty nice. Also, yes, we do have the Triple Seeker Village in here. Your deck is naturally a spellcaster strategy, so being able to slap one of the best cards on your end board and offer your opponent the handshake is going to feel, you know, a little bit BS-y, but, you know, it does in fact get the job done. Next up here, we have Malice. And you know what? This is interesting. Our second starter has now left the room in the form of the White Rabbit. So you've taken one consistency hit on this. It's a little bit annoying, but you know, I'm sure this deck will still find a way to kind of creep on back along and be able to do its thing. It's always been the Cyverse Pile's job, but it just now means that, you know, we have to see this card. And the fact that, you know, the TCG has already taken away a lot of the consistency that this deck has had, you know, leaving us on Red Ransom, the Heart Scripter, and we don't even have the Link 5 yet. If we had the Link 5, I feel like this would be a different topic of conversation, but we just don't have that. So we'll see how Malice is going to evolve. This deck just massively got kneecapped, though, which is a little bit of a problem. Next up here, we also have Draco Tail. This is another deck that just got kneecapped really hard. You know, you lost 2 copies of Rahu, you lost 1 Lucaeus, and you lost an Artholion. But the cool thing is, like, this list is already playing 2 Artholions, like, it was already slightly prepared for that. It's just you lost 3 potential starters to push this build through to more of a consistency piece. And that in and itself is a problem. You know, if you're not going to be able to do all of the things that this deck wants to do, shit, deck's just kind of dead at this point. So that's a wee little bit of a problem. But I guess here we are, man. It's an interesting time to say the least, but what do you guys think? Please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.